Welcome to another edition of the NFC West Roundtable. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a game coming up this week, and we had a game that ended in heartbreak for one of our representatives on this team. So needless to say, we have a hell of a show today. As you're coming in, do us a favor and smash that like button. It's the easiest way to continue to grow this channel on YouTube. But without further ado, let's go on ahead and bring in the representatives of the NFC West Roundtable. Starting off, my guys, what is going on? What is going on? We have to start off with Jake. Jake, how is life, my friend?
Honestly, it's pretty great. Aside from a game that it's frustrating, but I'm enjoying life. Learned how to play golf. I don't know, man. I get to do this for a living. I always have to check myself at the door there. I get to talk about football and whatever the hell I want for a living. And it continues to grow and get better. So I have nothing to complain about, really.
Hey, man, you know what? Just making sure you're counting your blessings. I love it. Mike.
Hell yeah, man.
What's good with you, man?
I'm good, man. I just watched a lot of football over the weekend. It was a beautiful thing. A lot of not very good games, but shout out to you guys at the Rams and the Lions. Best game of the whole entire damn weekend. But other than that, just chilling, man. Football's my life. That's all I got to say.
Oh, man. He is ready to flex here in just a second. Steezy, what's going on with you, man? Welcome back. Second week in a row.
Yeah, shout out to Norb. I love watching him, but being able to sub in for him is just as great of a pleasure. So happy to be back. And I mean, like Mike said, another great weekend of football. I know my Seahawks weren't there, but again, to echo what he said, I'm a big football fan myself, whether it's the Seahawks or not. So looking forward to seeing what's in store for this weekend and looking forward to having a show with you guys.
And last but not least, the man of the hour, guys, welcoming the 49ers up to the divisional round. How you doing, brother?
I couldn't be better. The 49ers didn't play, but somehow went 3-0. The Eagles lost, the Cowboys lost, and the Rams lost. It couldn't have been a better weekend, to be real with you.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, guys. Listen, you know what? This NFC West Roundtable, although it has been young, I have a feeling that this episode is certainly going to be jam-packed with emotion today. And, I mean, unfortunately, Jake, I apologize, but we're going to have to talk about this game. I mean, if anybody follows Jake on Twitter, it's been a movie for the most part. We've certainly seen him go to battle with quite a few Lions fans. He certainly feels a certain type of way. Jake, the floor is yours. Let's hear your takes on the overall game, what happened, and where your head's at. All you.
Yeah. First off, that has to be one of the best wild card games we've seen in about 10 years. Okay. It's definitely up there. I don't know where, but it's up there. Credit, obviously, the Detroit Lions, they got the win. I thought you got to credit 100%. You got to credit Sean McVay for this season. You look at a team that a lot of people thought were going to lose, 12, 13, 14 games. They made me not look like a Nimrod for having them at 10-7. Let's just call it like it is. I actually predicted them to lose in the playoffs to the Lions, although I thought the Lions would be the 1 seed, not the 3 seed. But look, that is one of the best games I've seen Matthew Stafford play. Some will say it's because he was playing against his former team. I think this is just who he is when he rises to the occasion. Obviously, Jesse knows that. They beat the NFC title, 49ers in the NFC title game. They beat the Bengals. He had to do that with a third-string tight end, no running backs that were healthy, no established run game, and throwing to Ben Skoranek, Van Jefferson, and Cooper Kupp after OBJ tore his ACL. So, not a surprise with the way Stafford played. Was upset, I think with the way everything went, as far as not really getting Kyron Williams going, not running the ball in the red zone, going 0 for 3. And then, looking at the defense, was disappointed in the defense in the first half. But Raheem Morris showed you, he definitely deserves to be a head coach. He's a leader of men. Hopefully he gets it this time around. And I mean that, unselfishly, because I want him back, unlike some other Rams fans. I actually do want him to stay as the Rams defensive coordinator. But you look at the adjustments he made in that second half, neutralizing Jared Goff and the Lions almost entirely. Just unfortunately, they weren't able to overcome that deficit that happened in the first half. And, there were a lot of different things, and I'm sure we'll get into it. What I will say is that I felt really good about this game going into it. I still felt good about this team. I really don't feel like, looking at their offense when they're fully healthy, which they weren't, I really don't think that they were going to get stopped by too many teams, maybe the Niners, maybe the Ravens. But I just was so impressed with the way they turned around an offense that essentially looked like one of the worst in the league at one point. And then when Kyren Williams came back, they shot up to number 8 in the league. So, it's been a fun season. Last thing I'll say is that I do wish that the NFL had some sort of, I guess, care about who officiates games, because, it's not necessarily the refs that I'm blaming. It's the ref that I'm blaming. The fact that the NFL, who, by the way, last year, the worst officiated game of the year by a lot of people in the NFL that said this, they even called for the idea that referees should be retrained on the rules. You can look it up. There's a big story on it. That was Craig Rolstad, who we know is a Washington native, Seattle fan at one point. I don't know if he still is a Seattle fan, but he refereed that Week 18 game, made some really questionable calls down the stretch, and put the Lions, actually, ironically, in a bad position where the Seahawks won. The Rams are playing a meaningless for pride game to win 6 games on the year, but it was just the fact that they were screwed. The Lions were screwed out of the playoffs. The Seahawks would play the Niners. And then fast forward to this year, Week 7, we all know what happened against the Steelers. They called a pass interference call that wasn't pass interference on Ahkello Witherspoon. He actually didn't end up touching Deontay Johnson. Mike Tomlin was laughing on the sidelines with how ridiculous it was. And then the 4th down play where they go for it, Kenny Pickett slips. He is down 2 yards before the first down marker, and they called it a first down. And basically what they said is, well, Sean McVay didn't have any timeouts, so he couldn't challenge it. So then that same official who's had 2 controversial endings to games, and that same official looked like he was having a pretty good game in that first half, swallowed the whistle in the second half, called that hold, unfortunately, on Rob Havenstein. I think it was ticky-tack, but allowed Matthew Stafford to get hit with, the guy committed manslaughter on Matthew Stafford on that one hit. No flag, but that's how it's been for Stafford. Only 1 penalty this year. And, the thing that bothers me the most is it's not that they missed calls. They always miss calls. And I'm not somebody that's like, that's a flag, that's a flag, that's a flag. I'm actually somebody who's sitting with my folks or whoever's watching. I say, all right, you can't call a flag for that. All right. But if you're going to let all that stuff go away, that's fine. But you got to call the Puka Nacua hold. I mean, it's very clear and obvious. It happened all game. It's why Matthew Stafford had to go to Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp was being held in the end zone. I mean, it was all game. That secondary can't cover a wet blanket. And the thing I feel about that is that if you're going to allow them to hold, if you don't step in and you don't throw a flag for that, and that happened, I mean, we saw Demarcus Robinson get tackled by 2 guys, then you're allowing them to do it. And so if you're going to allow them to do it, then yeah, I think the Lions have a good chance to win the Super Bowl, even against the 49ers, because if they can just hold George Kittle all game and they can hold, Deebo Samuel and all that, and those guys can't get out of it and they're not going to call it, who's going to beat that team if they can keep up with your scoring? So I'll just wrap it up by saying I just wish that there was a different official, and I wish that they called that hold on Puka. Would have been first and 10 at the 20, 30 maybe, something around that. I already forgot where it was, but Rams would have been in a good position with about 4 minutes to go to kick a go-ahead field goal, and it would have been a more fun game. Jared Goff would have had a chance to go down the field and win the game, come back from behind, win the game. I think we all would have rather seen that than what went down. And I know I'm not the only one that thinks that, but hey, I don't really care. It's been a really fun season watching this team come back and rally back from 3-6. I mean, I kept the faith. I really believed in this team. I had 10-7 before the season, like I said, and to see them actually rally back from 3-6 and have a island of misfit toys type of defense. I mean, let's just call it like it is, and do what they were able to do. It was a lot of fun, very impressive, and I felt closer to this team than I did with the Super Bowl team. If I'm being honest with you, just watching this team grow together, it was a very different team. And Sean McVay credits getting him back into, getting him back to himself, getting him back into coaching. So I'll just say this: I saw Sean McVay at the end of the game, doesn't call out refs, never calls out refs, and he was heated. He swallowed his pride. He's like, I don't want to take anything away from Jared. I don't want to take anything away from Dan Campbell and those guys. They played really well, so I'm not going to say anything. And you know what? Credit to Sean. He's done that his whole career. Puka Nacua had a gripe, obviously didn't say anything. Obviously nothing against the Steelers, but George Pickens was saying refs. That's not what we do over, with the Los Angeles Rams. They don't bitch, moan, and complain about refereeing. That's just not their culture. So they'll just get after it next year. And I'll say this: Matthew Stafford comes back home next season. Hopefully it's on Thanksgiving. And honestly, I'd like to see some revenge in the playoffs because they're not winning the next one.
Oh, damn. All right, Jesse. Thoughts on that game, my friend? Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, I remember last week, Jake self-proclaimed that McVay was the best coach in the league. And one thing that I didn't hear from the great rant that you just went on was the mistakes that McVay made. What about blowing the timeouts late or in the third quarter and early into the half? What about 4th and 14 in Lions territory? Maybe that's an opportunity to go for it or kick a long field goal or something. I think Sean McVay made some mistakes in that game, and being the best coach, I would expect that those mistakes aren't made in pivotal moments. Those are mistakes that I would expect the Lions to make. That being said, glad that the Rams are out of it. I wouldn't be happier. Like I said, Rams, Cowboys, Eagles, it was the trifecta. Niners went 3-0, didn't even play a game. Absolutely love it. But it was actually the best game of the weekend. As the AZ sports fan pointed out a little bit earlier, definitely the game that I was looking most forward to was it lived up to all the expectations. Matthew Stafford balled out just like we expected him to do. The concussion, whether he had it or not, it didn't matter. I mean, he played as if he didn't have it. I think he probably did have it. You had Kyron Williams leave that game. You had other injuries to the Rams, and Matthew Stafford just kept doing his thing. So all credit in the world to him. I also felt a little bit for him, being that he went into that game, was booed by the Lions fans as if he's the one that traded himself. I thought that was weird. I mean, he dedicated his whole body and career to helping the Lions win and just couldn't ever do it there. Can't blame him. But then also happy for Jared Goff and getting the revenge game against McVay and against the Rams. It was a great game overall. I think there were some questionable calls by McVay. I do think there were some questionable calls by the refs, but ultimately the better team probably won, and that was the Lions. So,
Mike, what's going on with you, man? I know that you picked the Lions to win.
Thank you.
You did. He was the one.
You did. I have to go ahead and give you the flowers.
Appreciate it.
In fact, I think you were the only one that did, right?
Yeah, I think I was too. I honestly, the Lions were very close to being the number one seed. Obviously, the Cowboys game ended up kind of getting screwed, but I understand where the people were coming from in terms of the Lions. But like, I never once batted an eye and say that these guys didn't have a chance. Like they did. Like this was a perfect storyline, and I think the expectation was there, and it was honestly met. The best game in the entirety of the damn weekend, where we saw blowout after blowout after blowout. It was a yawn fest until this game. So kudos to obviously Jake and the Rams and the Lions and whoever's sponsoring them or the fan of them. But in the grand scheme of things, this is the best game, and I'm honestly really, really glad with this result. I'm a guy that's very, very always with the underdog. And I love the fact that the Lions are finally getting a win. Since like 1991, 92, something like that. Their first playoff win. So definitely kudos to them. Very, very exciting times here because that means like when they win, like I feel a little gratified in me. And not that, and I say this every stream. And like I said, nothing against you, Jake, but like LA, if you don't live in Phoenix, you don't really know the hatred for LA teams. It goes past NFL. It's NBA. It's MLB, and it all has to do with big market teams trying to squash and try to make this whole narrative thing. I'm not saying the Rams are doing that, but like that's just kind of why the hatred is there for like Phoenix fans. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm happy. I'm not mad at it. I want to see how far Jared Goff can do. I still do think the 49ers are the favorites, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's such a good storyline, honestly.
Stacey, what you got, man?
Man, I feel like there's nothing else really left to say. I feel like everyone else kind of said what needed to be said. And so I say this, I'm just a little disappointed because I really felt like the Rams were going to give, the Niners the stiffest test out in the NFC. And now that that's not the case, it's going to be a cakewalk. Like, let's just call it what it is. I think for the 49ers, I mean, they do reside in the weaker conference. And so, for them not to have to go through the Rams, I feel like that's kind of a disappointment, coming from a Seahawks guy like myself, just because I was with Jake. I did believe in the Rams. I did believe that they were going to make a run. And I did believe that they were going to give the 49ers a run for their money. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But it is the NFL. And so it's not, I guess, completely weird that none of the more talented teams won. Like, I think the Cowboys are a more talented team than the Packers. They didn't win. I think the Eagles are a more talented team than the Buccaneers. They didn't win. I still think the Rams are a more talented team than the Lions, and they didn't win. And to kind of echo what Jake was talking about, I was just surprised as well that they didn't use Kyron Williams enough. Cooper Kupp only had 27 yards, and nobody had more than DeMarcus Robinson's 44. And so I just feel like they didn't do a good enough a job of getting other guys involved. Puka really dominated everything. I mean, 9 catches for 181 and 2 touchdowns, or was it a touchdown? Broke DK Metcalf's record in the process, and so he's going to be a problem for years to come. But overall, I mean, I just had fun watching all these games, and so I'm looking forward again to next weekend, and we'll see what happens in the Packers and the 49ers game.
My God. Ladies and gentlemen, that is correct. It is divisional weekend coming up, and we do have one team standing, the 1 seed, and as he's already mentioned, it sounds like all of the potential quote-unquote threats have been eliminated in just the wild card weekend by itself, looking like perhaps the easiest road to the Super Bowl, according to many 49ers fans. Now, guys, right before we get into it, because of course we are going to hear from Jesse, we do have a giant announcement and something we're very excited about. At Roundtable Sports, we have been playing around and releasing several graphic tees throughout this year, representing each and every single team. Well, as you know, the NFC West Roundtable was just recently launched a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't have representation until right now. That is right. We have finally ended up releasing our 49ers graphic tee collection. Have no fear, everybody else, Rams fans and Cardinals fans and Seahawks fans, your designs are coming. However, the first edition, and don't worry, we have 2. We have a Christian McCaffrey graphic tee staring you right in the face. This is high quality, ladies and gentlemen. These are handmade from our merch department and going into it. And then, of course, the tight end of the century, George Kittle, who is also being represented in the Roundtable Sports graphic tee collection. If you are interested in copying one of these, certainly go on ahead and check the link that is either pinned in this chat or also in the description. Definitely some solid designs on the way as well. Like I said, we have one for the Rams coming. We have one for the Seahawks and also the Cardinals. And we will continue to go on ahead and release these. If you're interested, definitely go on ahead and check it out. We are not stopping there. All right, Jesse. San Francisco 49ers are playing the Green Bay Packers this week. I can guarantee you that you probably did not say this was 3 weeks ago. I'm sure you probably wouldn't have predicted this would be your first playoff game going into it.
No.
Let's hear your overall take and let's hear your game plan for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is very surprising that the Green Bay Packers are the team that the 49ers are going to play in round 1. It was nice to figure out who the opponent was going to be right away. First game out of the way, we knew the Packers were going to be playing. And it sounds like Kyle was actually preparing at halftime for that game because he didn't think that Dallas was going to come back either, which I think is also very funny in itself. That being said, Green Bay Packers did their thing against the Dallas Cowboys, but this matchup is very different. One thing about Green Bay that I've noticed is their defense, their run defense in particular, has not been great. They've had 3 games, I believe, where they've given up over 200 yards rushing. They average giving up around 144 yards rushing. And the Dallas Cowboys were one-dimensional all on their own. It wasn't anything that Green Bay did. It's the Dallas Cowboys decided that they wanted to pass. Then they got behind. And once they were behind, they continued to pass. And so Green Bay was just able to hone in on Dak Prescott, game plan for that passing offense, and we're able to go out and win that game going away. This game will be much different. Green Bay's run defense will be tested. Christian McCaffrey and this rushing attack will get it done. And then, of course, Brock Purdy playing fantastic football. This is an all-around offense, and I don't believe that the Green Bay Packers will be able to keep up. Vegas doesn't believe it either. 10 points in a playoff game, round 2, is a massive spread. I like the 49ers here to win big. And quite frankly, like I said last week, I do think the Rams would have been the toughest test, but I don't think any team in the NFC is going to keep it within 10 points of the San Francisco 49ers. I think the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl. I think they're going to get there relatively easy. Once they get there, either the Bills, Chiefs, or Ravens will likely be waiting. That's where the true test comes, and we'll see how that one goes. But the NFC is the 49ers for the taking, even more so than what I thought last week at this time.
Now, one quick follow-up question right before I get everybody else's takes. Is there any part of you that is concerned about some potential rust, right? Because say that I remember correctly, I know that the Niners did rest quite a few of their starters on week 18, have the bye week, and then right before you host these Green Bay Packers, a lot of your starters, yes, they may be healthy and well-rested, but with that, they haven't played a snap of football in about 3 weeks. Is there any concern there? And do you foresee the Niners starting off slow for like the first quarter or maybe into the half? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is one of the things that I talked about. I personally preferred if the starters would have played a half going into that final game, but you do have to weigh the injury factor. So it's something I'll be looking for. But one thing I will say is Brock Purdy went all offseason. This was supposed to be his first true offseason because, as a rookie quarterback, you're trying to get drafted. You're going through all the camps. You're going through, all the tests. You don't really have a true offseason. This offseason was supposed to be his first. It was supposed to be his offseason to improve going from year 1 to year 2. However, he spent all offseason rehabbing from that major surgery that he had with the torn UCL. I was worried about the 49ers offense to start the season because of all of that. They didn't miss a beat. They came out firing right away. So if he can go months without playing real football and come in right away and this offense can click, I believe 3 weeks shouldn't be an issue after a full season put in. I expect this offense to come out firing. If they don't, though, that's where things could get interesting. If the Packers jump up on the 49ers are used to playing from ahead. If they have to play from behind, those are questions that I'll look to be answered throughout that game. But I do expect the 49ers start out hot.
Got it. Stacey, thoughts on this game? Can Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers pull off a miracle?
They most definitely can. I'm not going to bet or put money on it. And I do think it helps that they're the hottest team arguably in the National Football League. And so who knows if the Niners do get out to somewhat of a slow start and if Green Bay is able to capitalize on that, perhaps that's their greatest chance of potentially scoring an upset just because, in the past we have seen teams that come in hot at the right time go on unprecedented runs. And with the way that Jordan Love has looked, they have a top 10 quarterback. Aaron Jones has looked like a top 5 running back in the last month or so. Matt LaFleur is a better coach than we all had thought. The defense is playing a lot better. And so I just think history isn't on their side. They're overmatched. The talent isn't on their side. And so it's really going to come down to Jordan Love. Can he have a transcendent sort of game? If so, then perhaps they have more than a puncher's chance. But I'm kind of with Jesse here. The spread is about 10 in favor of the Niners, and I think that's about right. Perhaps the Packers can make some sort of a late run if things are close towards the end. But ultimately, I mean, the Niners are healthy. They're rested. These guys are hungry. And look, they have bigger fish to fry. And I don't think they're going to look past the Packers, but they know that they're a better team. And they know that historically, history's on their side as well. In their last 4 playoff games, the Packers are 0-4 against the Niners. And I don't think that they're going to make it 1-4 after this weekend. So give me the Niners in an 11-12 point game.
Damn. All right, Mike.
Yeah. When we're looking at this game, I think we see the Green Bay Packers and what they did to the Dallas Cowboys. I think Jesse said that right. I think it's more of a testament to like how bad, not bad, but like the Cowboys, man. It's just everybody in the NFC East. I've said this last time that we were on live. I just think everybody over there's frauds, man. I didn't think anybody was going to go far in that NFC East. Eagles, we saw them kind of get bounced out as well. So I always kind of felt like the NFC West was going to be the team that's going to be moving over to obviously the conference and obviously to the end of the conference in terms of winning it all and going to the Super Bowl. So honestly, I like what the Green Bay Packers are doing. It is annoying the fact that they got like 3 back-to-back really good quarterbacks. Now, granted, yes, this is the first year of Jordan Love starting, but he's looking pretty darn good. But like, I don't know, somewhere deep down in me is like Brett Favre and then Rodgers and now Love. It's just, you kind of really hope you see that franchise regress, and it's kind of like they don't stop. But I think the 49ers overall are just like a moving train, and literally the Green Bay Packers are just going to get in the way. In the grand scheme of things, I think it's going to be a good game, hopefully in the beginning, but I think that when the 49ers realize that like they're trying to, chug their way in, I think they're going to kind of shut it down, and it's going to be history from there. I don't know if we want score predictions, but if I'm going to throw one out there, I'm going to say 35-21. I'll say the 49ers to win this easily.
Damn. All right, Jake. What you got, man?
Well, I was right about one thing. The Packers were going to beat the Cowboys. I told you guys. I said they're going to be the first 7 seed to win, mainly because I told you the Cowboys were a ticking time bomb. They started showing the cracks in the armor at home. And I'll say this, Jordan Love, man. Jordan Love is one of the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL. I mentioned it last week. It's why I was really high on them. I'm still really high on them. I think they're going to be in this game. Do I think they win? No, I don't. I think this is going to be closer than people realize. Okay. The 10-point thing is ridiculous. That's a team that just absolutely decimated the Cowboys. The score doesn't indicate what that game really was. Now, is Jair Alexander going to be healthy? They had some injuries. Enagber, who plays on the defense, the edge defender, is he going to be healthy? Are they going to be able to run the ball against the 49ers front? I think that's a really important thing going into this game, and I don't know if they can. I think when you look at Green Bay, they are kind of that team that you just have no idea, because they are the youngest team in the NFL. They're the 5th youngest team to ever play in the playoffs. And their first game, they didn't look like they didn't belong. Like, I was totally expecting them to not even make any, here's the thing. I thought that they would beat Dallas, and then I thought they'd get rocked in the next round. And I thought they'd beat Dallas close. The way they beat Dallas and Jordan Love playing the way he did, this is going to be a close game. I'm going to take the 49ers. I'm going to say 34-31. I think that this is a Packers team that, again, like Jesse, I've been there. Don't predict the blowout. I'm telling you right now. You'd rather be wrong about the score than be wrong about the outcome. Don't predict the blowout. Just learn from my experience. But no, all jokes aside, I do think the Packers are good enough to keep this thing close, but it's like the 49ers are the better team. And I'll say this, with the 49ers, you better go to the Super Bowl. You have no excuse. You are essentially the number 1 seed in March Madness. That in that region, that next one, the number 1 seed got knocked out by the 16, and the 16's all celebrating. Oh my God, we got our first win and everything, dude. I'm telling you, it's lined up perfectly for you. If you don't get this, if they don't get to the Super Bowl, I don't want to hear another word from Niners fans because I'm just saying, because we're getting closer to 30 years here. 30 years, you know what I mean? Like the VCR era, like come on, like we're now looking at people regularly having 8K televisions in their living room. Like we've gotten to that point. So it's either this year or it's no year. So, but no, again, also reminder to watch out. Poor George Kittle. Everyone pray for him because if you guys play the Lions, man, Kirby Joseph,
dude, no doubt.
I'm telling you right now, that dude is dirty as hell. I watched him go low on Lamar Jackson earlier in the year. I watched him take out TJ Hawkinson, ruin his season. And I watched that hit on Tyler Higbee. You do it once, happens. I get it. But it's no different than a NASCAR driver running guys off the road consistently. It's like you do it once, it's like, okay, it was an accident. Do it a bunch of times, you start to get a reputation. You're a dirty player. And I'm saying it right now. I made a joke about it, but I was dead serious with the whole Walter White meme, just screaming from his car, Cade Otton, watch the knees, Cade. That's how it's going to be this weekend. I am going to be praying that Cade Otton doesn't have his knee going backwards like a compound bow.
Damn.
Sheesh.
Damn.
I saw it with Higbee, man. That was trash right there. That's what that was. That was trash.
He tore his ACL, right?
You're damn straight he did. Yeah. He tore his ACL and he tore Hawkinson's in a month. A month. That's it. Yeah.
Oh,
watch out, Kittle. I interviewed Kittle. I still have a soft spot for Kittle. So if he injures Kittle, if he injures Cade, I'm gonna be a lunatic. So yeah. I'm team no injuries if you can't tell. Like I don't anyway.
It's the game within the game. It's like every time that you're watching a playoff game, you're hoping that once the game's out of hand, that whatever team is advancing can get out of there healthy because you want to see the best games. If you're a football fan, you want to see the best games, and we all want to see the best games. So you're hoping for health. I completely understand what you're saying. It is frustrating when you see injuries happen at the end of a game, and then that team's got to advance and get it done the next week. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, and I get okay, non-contact, that happens, but you're taking your helmet, you're lining up your shot, and you're just drilling the guy in the kneecap. Stop talking about the hip drop tackle. And by the way, that was an anti-Niner thing. I'm the Rams guy here, but that was anti-Niners. That was after the Niners did whatever they did because Dallas got really loud about it, right? Tony Pollard. Again, not happy Tony got hurt. I like Tony. But that was BS because then the hip drop tackle took away from the actual issue in the NFL. Is that one, they're not protecting quarterbacks aside from Patrick Mahomes and the top marquee guys. They're very selective. We saw that on Sunday. And two, they're not protecting tight ends and just bigger wide receivers that corners just since they can't tackle, they don't have any fundamentals when it comes to tackling. They're using their helmet as a weapon. That's not what it's for. It's for protection. It's not to use as a weapon. And yeah, I'm dead. I'm genuinely worried for Cade Otton and George Kittle and whoever the hell plays the Lions. Because man, Kirby Joseph and not even just him, but we all saw it. I'm just saying, 4 guys in the medical tent. Yeah, I'm still not over it.
I had a question for you, Jake, real quick, before we move on to the next topic. We're hearing a lot of stuff from Matthew Stafford. How do you feel about Jared Goff in terms of because I heard the basically them booing Matthew Stafford. That home crowd was very, very rowdy. But how do you feel in terms of Jared Goff pertaining to him moving on? Are you happy for him? Do you not care, or how do you feel about it?
It's weird because I think going into it, I was ready to root for him, and now I don't feel that way just because the way the fans acted and everything. Rams fans cheered him during the game and everything. There were Rams fans in attendance that had his jersey on, and I mean, there's still Rams fans that I'll argue with that are pro Jared over Stafford. I mean, he has a lot of support here, and he was only here for 5 years. Stafford was there for 12, and they were booing his kids, his wife. I mean, and just cheering when he got hurt. I mean, that's just, I'm not saying they're all like that, but that really showed the true colors in the majority of them, in my opinion, because I don't think, I wouldn't do that. I also think booing is ridiculous. I think it's stupid, but that's just me. That's just a personal choice. I would never boo anybody because I just think it sounds dumb. Yeah. But no, I think with Goff, I am a little bitter about it because it's this whole, I had no issue with him before, but this whole, oh, they threw him away. Man, Jesse, you watch film. They didn't throw him away. They gave him every opportunity.
They made the right decision.
2016, they went 0-7. He went 0-7 as the starter. They had nothing there. McVay comes in 2017. Now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, top 10, right? Then 2018, he continues that and starts to look like a top 5. And then towards the end of the year, he starts to fall off. And he had like one good postseason game in there. And then people were like, oh, Jared's really good. And then the playoff, the Super Bowl game, I mean, we all saw it. He wasn't ready for the moment. Right. So then 2019 hits and they don't get to the playoffs. And then 2020 goes, and I thought he played decently well in his last game against the Packers, but you couldn't tell me with how much they invested and who they invested in that like this team not having a Super Bowl until 2021. I mean, they needed Stafford. And do you think they wanted to trade Jared Goff? No, they paid him. It's the fact is he immediately regressed. I mean, there was a game against the Dolphins that I think, Dan, you probably remember. The Dolphins, they held Tua Tagovailoa to 100 total, like 100 yards. The rest of the offense couldn't do anything. However, Jared Goff turned the ball over like 4 times, and the Rams lost by 2 touchdowns in a game that they absolutely dominated the Dolphins in. And that was the moment where Sean started being like, we don't have the answer. Like, you know, that was the infamous, he came out and said, our quarterback has to stop turning the ball over. And this is a guy that always took responsibility. He would always blame himself. So when I saw that, I knew I wasn't crazy. Like the glass shattered for me. I was like, Goff ain't it. Like you have to move on. And the media and like the mainstream all made this game about, oh, poor Jared Goff. He's got to get his win. That's what I didn't like. If there was a revenge, if anyone needed revenge, it was Aubrey Pleasant, the secondary coach and passing game coordinator for the Rams, because he was their secondary coach last year, and they fired him because the secondary was so bad. And the argument he had with Jeff Okudah, they fired him mid-season. And Jeff Okudah was not brought back. So it wasn't Jeff Okudah, right? And it wasn't Aubrey Pleasant because the secondary is still garbage. So to me, I feel like that was the revenge game. If anything, he had a bone to pick with them. Like they fired him in the middle of last year, and the secondary never got better. And, you know, everyone's trying to make this a Jared thing. At the beginning of the game, I like forgot it was like, oh, Matthew Stafford's come back to Ford Field. I thought this was just the Jared Goff revenge game. I mean, it was just all week. And I mean, it was the same thing. And I think a lot of it, first off, the media was wrong about Stafford. It's why he didn't win Super Bowl MVP. They didn't want to admit he actually proved him wrong. But number 2, I think you go back to it, and guys, go back and watch one of the old ESPN or whatever before they traded Jared Goff away. All of those guys sat there with the big smiles on their faces and said, they can't move that contract. They can't do it. They can't trade Jared. It's not possible. They might want to, but they can't do it. He's going to be back. He's going to be playing with John Wolford, and they're going to, you know, fight for the starting job. And the fact is, the Rams proved them wrong again. People said, oh, they can't go out and get Aqib Talib. They did. They can't go out and get Marcus Peters. They did. They can't get Von Miller. They can't get OBJ. And I think that's really what it comes down to. People don't like that the Rams cut corners instead of going the traditional rebuild. And you have a team like, say, you know, the Panthers, and they're like, well, what the hell? Why are we bad? Or like the Broncos, it's like we tried the same thing and it didn't work. So I think, that's how I feel. I mean, Goff, at the end of the day, I have nothing against Goff. He got his win, though. I don't feel like I have to root for him anymore.
Okay. It's a beautiful thing, boys.
I'll be rooting for the former Rams quarterback, Baker Mayfield. There we go.
Come on.
It is a beautiful thing. Guys, listen, as I was just informed, we are about like 87 people away from hitting 1,000 subscribers on this channel at the NFC West Roundtable. So if anybody in here has not subscribed, certainly do so, guys. We are going to be at you all off season as well, just making sure that we absolutely shove content down your throats, moving through with it. All right, now, pause, exactly. We need to discuss one thing that we were all talking about in detail this previous episode last week. A gentleman by the name of Pete Carroll. We asked Steezy, we're like, man, what's going on with this guy? Will he have a job? And then I believe hours later, or maybe even the following morning, he's gone. He is gone. He is no longer the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Steezy, your take on that. And then if there are any candidates that you would absolutely love to see come to Seattle?
Look, like I was saying last week, I mean, it was just time. I really feel like time had kind of run its course, or at least Pete Carroll's time in Seattle had kind of run its course. It's not to say that we don't appreciate the culture, the winning seasons, the consistency in that regard. But like I had also mentioned last week, it just never really felt like this team has been in Super Bowl contention for some time now. The defense continues to regress every single year, despite such a massive overhaul, right, on the personnel side of things, especially particularly defensively. There's been coordinator after coordinator after coordinator, and it's just been the same problems every single year. And so he's definitely going to be missed. I definitely feel like whoever comes in next, they're not going to be able to bring that same sort of, charisma and energy and positivity and the vibes and just the aura that he has, right? But I think that if we were to see an upgrade as far as like the X's and O's, just something different schematically and just improvement in the defense, I'm fine with taking a step back next year. I know there's talent on this football team, but it is going to take some time for everything to gel. And that's with the new coaching staff that's coming in. And so, again, he's a legend in this city. He'll forever be cherished, and we'll forever remember him and the contributions that he's made. But, good things – now, sometimes good things, or not even sometimes, but good things, they must come to an end, right? And so I'm definitely looking forward to the next chapter. As far as candidates go, Ben Johnson, obviously he's a hyped-up candidate. Mike McDonald, who was able to put an end to the 49ers in their, reign of terror on the offensive side of the ball. I think that he'd be a great addition, to a division in where you got to go up against the Kyle Shanahan and the Niners and the Sean McVays of the world. I think he'd be a great guy. Bobby Slowick, offensive coordinator for the Texans. He has ties to the Shanahan tree. He was there alongside Mike McDaniel, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan over in Washington. And he's doing a phenomenal job right now with C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. And I don't know if you guys tuned in, but John Schneider had a press conference earlier today. And he started off by saying that we're having this press conference because we underachieved. And so obviously Seattle is looking to win now, but at the same time, they do want to be able to retain some of that culture. And I do think that you can do that with some of the guys that I listed. And best of luck to Pete Carroll. I mean, there are reports from Adam Schefter coming out saying that, if there's a job or an opportunity that presents itself, he's not completely done from coaching. And so I definitely wish him the best. But I definitely thought it was time. And with the talent that this football team has, I wouldn't be surprised if within the next couple of years, Seattle's back again as a real threat in the NFC.
So with a follow-up question there as well, he's no longer head coach, but he's still a part of the organization. Is that right?
As an advisor, but I highly doubt that he's going to have any sort of impact because there are also reports that he's not going to have any sort of input on who the next head coach is going to be. And so if he's not going to have even that, then what's he going to be doing in an advisory role? Who knows? But I think that was more of like a respect thing, just because you don't want to just completely kick him out. I mean, he does have 1 year left on his contract. And so it remains to be seen, but he's definitely not going to have input in the next head coach.
Is Pete Carroll done coaching?
I don't think so. I truly don't think so. I do think that an opportunity will present itself. And he even said it himself that he was fighting to save his job. Like he was adamant in returning and coming back next year. And so I do think that if an opportunity presents itself, that he will come back to coaching. And if not, then I think that he's happy to kind of ride off into the sunset. But knowing that he's the ultimate competitor, he's not going to go out like that.
Mike, where is Pete Carroll going to be the head coach next year?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be, at least not this year. If we're talking about this year, I don't think he will. I think he might write out that advisory role. Then if something else opens up, maybe next year. I don't know. I just don't see it happening this year. The way he was just super emotional, and I don't blame him. He's been with the Seattle Seahawks for quite some time, and if he was my head coach, I would have some sort of feeling as well because he's been a guy who brought you to the Super Bowl. So I get where you guys are coming from pertaining to. It needed to happen. I would have been in that same shoes as well, especially if you guys haven't been in the Super Bowl in quite some time and just didn't feel like you had a Super Bowl team. So I don't blame any fans for feeling the way that they do. But I don't know. I just feel like right now, just Pete Carroll just needs to chill. Just stay there, chill in your advisory role right now. I don't think he's going to be a coach this year. If he is, I'd be shocked. I would be surprised. Let him write out that advisory role. I think that's the best for him right now.
So what about you, Jake? Is Pete Carroll finished, or will he be a head coach of a needy organization next year?
I mean, maybe down the road, maybe he gets an opportunity. I don't think it's going to be this year though, upcoming. I think it's going to be Dan Quinn. I think it's a mistake. I mean, I get the familiarity and everything, but I think they got to go young blood here. And to me, I look at a few. First off, I look at Bobby Slowick. I think that first off, they already brought in Waldron as the OC to bring in some of the Rams outside influence. Slowick would bring in some of the 49ers outside influence, and it feels like that's kind of a move that they would want to go in. I mean, I could see that. I just kind of like the idea of bringing in a younger coach. I mean, if you're going to get rid of Pete Carroll and, that's your guy, I mean, he's an older guy. He does things a little differently. I know he's not your typical older guy. Like, he has been open to some changes, but like he talked about kind of like the influence of analytics, and that kind of bothered him a little bit. Didn't sound like football decisions were being made anymore. I think that was how he explained that. So if that's the case, you got to bring in a younger guy. I could see a Mike McDonald. The job he's done since Wink Martindale left the Ravens has been just outstanding. So I think he could get, opportunities. I think Raheem Morris with the Rams, if you're looking for a culture guy, that's definitely somebody. And keep in mind, he'd be running a different defense. He's been asked to run a completely different defense than what he would run philosophically, over in LA. But I mean, those are a few. If they wanted to get really crazy and do something like ballsy, I could see them taking Zach Robinson off the Rams. He's the quarterback coach. Sean McVay got him in 2017 from PFF, and he just continues to work his way up the rungs. I could see them doing something ballsy like that. I mean, think about it. You go from Pete Carroll, you kind of have to make a big time decision, and it would be a splash move because he's not a name that you really are thinking of, but it's people would see that age. They'd see where he's coming from. They'd see how he got there, and they'd be like, that's interesting. And then maybe, I don't know, Jim Harbaugh might be in play as well. I could see something. I think it would be a mistake because I think they got to go with like a younger guy. I think Slowick ends up there, if not Dan Quinn. I think it'll end up being Dan Quinn though.
Interesting.
I know, Jesse, you got to go next. But a quick question, Steezy. Any Mike Vrabel? Anything? Does that do anything for you?
I like Mike Vrabel. I don't know if you guys saw Adam Schefter was on the Dan Patrick show. Was that yesterday or earlier today? But he talked about how John Schneider and Mike Vrabel have a relationship. And as far as culture and what he brings to the table defensively, I do think that he'd be able to help retain some of what John Schneider was talking about. But just offensively, I don't know. I mean, unless he were to bring in a young offensive mind, I just don't know if he's the guy that we would want, especially if Seattle wants to, utilize and take advantage of all the weapons. I mean, DK Metcalf, I feel like he's been underutilized pretty much his entire tenure in Seattle. Jackson Smith and Jigba wasn't really utilized until the second half of this past season. The tight ends weren't utilized the way that I expected. K9 and Zach Charbonnet, back-to-back second-round picks. Seattle was always known as a run-first team, but that just didn't happen a lot this year. And so I would love Mike Vrabel from a culture and from a defensive standpoint. But as far as unlocking the potential of that offense, I'm not sure he's the guy I want to go with.
And so what about you, Jesse? So
I think
the GM over at Seattle.
Yeah, I think Quinn would be super disappointing. If I was a Seahawks fan, that doesn't get me excited at all. I love the Harbaugh one. That would be terrifying as a 49er fan. But really, the one that makes the most sense to me is the Mike McDonald. I think that's the hire. And not only because of who he is as a coach, but I also look at Patrick Queen, who's likely going to be on another team next year. And why not go with his defensive coordinator, set the tone over there in Seattle to get that defense humming? There's a lot of really good players on that Seattle defense.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, it seems like they're coached by a 1960s coach because there is no creativity. What they show you pre-snap is exactly what you're getting post-snap. There's got to be change there. And McDonald is that proper change. He's the youth that Jake talked about. He's something different. And he can bring some players from that Ravens team that are set to be free agents to set the tone over there, just like all coaches eventually do. I think that's the right hire. Is it going to happen? Probably not, but that should be the hire they make.
Justin Matabike, can't forget about him. He had a great year.
I think Matabike is going to be who they choose, and that's why I think Queen will be gone. But I could be wrong. They may lose both of them. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oof, look at that. All right. Well, you know what? We couldn't go an episode, of course, without talking about the Cardinals. Have a talk about the Cardinals for our boy Mike.
Well, we could.
We could for sure, but I want to see Mike happy.
Appreciate it.
Mike. Okay, man. Listen, you know what? I've definitely been keeping, up with you on X, on everything along those lines. And the draft definitely seems to be like at your highest priority. I've seen some rumors talking about where the Cardinals might even trade down. I'm thinking I've seen a couple of things where they might trade down just because of where they're currently sitting.
Yeah.
And I know that you are a massive fan of the receivers in this draft, which as football fans, I know that each and every single one of us are absolutely salivating at the idea of one of those receivers in the first round being on any one of our teams. But I mean, really overall thought process of like what you think this overall attack plan is going to be, especially when it comes into the draft, because we're hearing one thing, we're hearing very astronomical takes like that. Like we're going to move on from Kyler and we're going to go with one of these new quarterbacks coming in, wide receivers. Talk to me about what you think this front office in Arizona's got cooking.
Yeah, so it's crazy because obviously second year of Monty Austin for it's a lot of unknown, but obviously we can kind of follow the trends and what we kind of see here in terms of the fan base. But I think Kyler Murray is going to be the guy still. And I think for the most part, most Cardinal fans are okay with that. Of course, you got that little group of fans that are like, no, get rid of him. He's terrible. But it is best to build a team. We've got so many holes like up and down this roster. Like even if Kyler Murray isn't the future for like years to come, you do want to have a team solidified for somebody to kind of come in here so they could succeed. But anyways, I digress. This year, the Arizona Cardinals, yes, right now we're sitting in the 4th overall spot. I kind of feel like Cardinal fans kind of feel like it all just depends on what the Bears do. Like we're literally waiting to see what the Bears do. If they go after Caleb Williams, I feel like they got to go after Caleb Williams because obviously I want them to, and I think that should leave Marvin Harrison for us. But it all just depends on what they do. If they trade back down to the Patriots and the Patriots want Caleb, and they might get themselves Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3. So it just depends on what they do. I think right now Cardinal fans are kind of coping that we might not get Marvin Harrison Jr., but we'll be kind of cool with a Malik Neighbors or maybe even a Roma Dunze. Now, I'm not saying pick those guys up at 4. I think really the only guy you can kind of feel very, very confident with picking up at 4 is maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. if he slips to you. But I think the Cardinals can do anything. Like even if we do stay at 4, and the Cardinals do want to go wide receiver, I'm cool with that. But I feel like if they stay at 4, you got to address that offensive line, whether it's Joel or Olu Fashanu, because DJ Humphries just got a huge injury in the last game of the season. He most likely will not be playing in the beginning of the regular season. And there's a lot of rumors out there, not rumors, but a lot of kind of speculations about, hey, maybe we can move off of DJ Humphries to save up some more money. And maybe we can kind of get some more draft capital out of him. So we'll have to kind of wait and see how that shakes out. The Cardinals can literally do anything. And I think Cardinal fan base would be happy because we have so many holes. I think Olu Fashanu would be great. I think Joe Alt would be cool. But I think the most splashy play, and I think what everybody's salivating as is getting Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think that would be the most ideal. But if it doesn't happen, I think we'll be fine. Like I'm really high on Roma Dunze. Maybe not at 4. If we do trade back and accumulate more picks, heck, I would love to get Roma Dunze because I think the most important thing right now is to get big body type wide receivers. Like we've been known as, just like the speedy guys the whole time. It didn't work. I've never believed in Rondo Moore since we traded him. I called him Andy Isabella 2.0 and a lot of people got pissed off about him, but now we're seeing Rondo Moore just isn't really shaking out to be the guy that we all, or people thought he was going to be. Greg Dortch is a stud. I like Greg Dortch, but like Hollywood Brown most likely won't be coming back. And then Michael Wilson's going to be taking his second year, hopefully a leap. Fingers crossed on that. But I think most Cardinal fans are looking for a wide receiver. But, we could do anything. We could trade back. I think anything is on the table, honestly.
Certainly a lot of wonderful off-season content coming this way, guys. Once again, make sure you do subscribe to this channel and also smash that like button. So close to 1,000. I have a feeling that we're about to hit it sometime tomorrow. So certainly go on ahead and contribute right to that goal over here. All right, guys, what I want to do is just go around the table and let everybody know where to find you specifically and what your plans are for the remainder of the week. Starting off with Jesse. Big game, man. What's going on with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Last Second Sports on YouTube. You can find me there at JNay_LSS on X, Twitter, whatever you call it these days. And the next time you'll find me over on my channel is Behind Enemy Lines. I will have a Packers content creator on. We will discuss the ins and outs of the games. Probably my favorite show of the week because it allows my fan base and the opposing team's fan base to learn about what is to be expected in the upcoming game, really learn the ins and outs of the opponent, and be more educated for the upcoming matchup. So that will be tomorrow night.
Beautiful. So what about you, Jake? What's going on with your channel?
Yeah, so obviously not the way, you wanted to end the season, but hey, there's going to be plenty of content. Off-season stuff is in full force. I'm going to be getting in the draft next week, and I'm going to be hitting that thing harder than anyone, hopefully. I mean, I'll try at least. So you can follow me at JK Bogan on all social media, and you can find my channel on YouTube, Jake Ellen Bogan. I'm going to be doing a lot of draft content this offseason that I will make it. There will be a Rams spin on it to abide by the YouTube algorithm, not trying to kill my, my viewership and everything, but just know that it will be for everyone. I will be doing, full on profiles. This year, I'm going to be doing a little bit new of a spin on draft content. I'm going to be watching tape and, obviously evaluating it from that, but I'm also going to be using more like analytics mixed with that, which I have never done before. So kind of a new approach. So if you're interested in that, definitely check out the channel as the season rolls on. And if you're a Rams fan, you haven't subscribed yet, I don't know what you're doing. But we're going to have plenty of interviews. I got players lined up, on the Rams that will be coming on throughout the year. We'll be interviewing draft prospects. I have multiple shows. Just a lot of different things. So, appreciate it.
Beautiful. So what about you, Steezy? What's going on with your channel, man?
Man, well, before you guys check me out, definitely be sure to check everybody else out at Roundtable Sports. Obviously, these guys are doing a bunch of great things, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. I won't be here every week, but Noah, whenever you need a sub, shoot, you got your guy. And to everybody else out there, I mean, if you're a Seahawks fan or if you just enjoy Seahawks content, I'll be talking about candidates. I know I kind of touched on it earlier, but I'll definitely be doing a deeper dive on candidates and why certain guys fit and don't fit, I feel like, as a head coach in Seattle. Obviously, some draft stuff. Seattle doesn't have a whole lot of cap space, and there's a whole bunch of moves to be made. And so I'm also going to be dropping a bunch of stuff revolving around how Seattle can create, that sort of cap space. And again, I had a bunch of fun. Thanks for having me on, y'all, and hope everyone has a great night.
All right. And Mike, last but not least, man, what you got?
A lot of off-season stuff, man. I know a lot of people are talking about draft, but I think free agency is very important for the Cardinals as well because we got holes. Obviously, we don't need to build off from free agency, but I do want to get like one or two key pieces, guys that are culturally going to make us better. But the draft is also going to obviously heavily influence on what's going on. And like I said, we're literally watching what the Bears are going to do. Like that's what Cardinal fans are doing, that and what the Texans are doing. And that's annoying because we got their first round pick and we're hoping they're going to be, on the bottom with us so we can get 2 top 10 picks, but that didn't work out for us. And it's a storyline of the Arizona Cardinals in general. But if you want to find Cardinal content, look up the AZ Sports Fan on pretty much any platform. You most likely will probably find me, but primarily here on YouTube.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much once again for tuning in to another edition of the NFC West Roundtable. We will be right here at the exact same time next week to discuss everything that happened in the San Francisco 49ers and Green Bay Packers game. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Peace.
Go Cards.